Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the City Commission for Tuesday, March 5th, 2019. And if we could start by all of you joining me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item is to approve the agenda. I have one change to the agenda as it's presented. We are going to delete the closed session.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that we approve this evening's agenda with the deletion of item 12, closed session.
Second.
Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have an agenda and there are copies of it available at the back of the Commission chamber as well as at the recorder's desk. Approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of March 5th.
So moved. Second.
Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Communications. One, we do not have any elected officials with us this evening, so no remarks from elected officials. Public participation. This is an opportunity for the public to speak to the commission on an item that is not on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll close public participation and move on to, we have a couple of proclamations this evening. The first is a proclamation of the City of Huntington Woods recognizing April 26, 2019 as Arbor Day and April 22nd, 2019 as Earth Day in the City of Huntington Woods. Whereas Arbor Day began in the state of Nebraska in 1872 and is now observed annually in April throughout the world, the United States, and the City of Huntington Woods. Trees are an important part of any Earth Day celebration observed annually on the last Friday in April. And Huntington Woods, as a Tree City USA recipient for 30 years, celebrates Arbor Day by planting new trees on cities right-of-way and city parks and common areas. Whereas trees in our city play an important role in enhancing property values, and trees can reduce the erosion of topsoil, cut energy costs, moderate temperatures, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. Whereas, although a renewable resource, hundreds of trees have been saved through the city's successful program of paper recycling and the use of recycled paper products throughout the city. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Huntington Woods does proclaim April 22nd as Earth Day and April 26th as Arbor Day in the City of Huntington Woods, and urges all residents to join the celebration by supporting the city's urban forestry program and by planting, nurturing, and protecting trees on both public and private property for the betterment of our community. Proclaimed at the regular City Commission meeting of April 2nd, 2019. And we have a second proclamation of the City of Huntington Woods declaring April 2019 to be Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month. Whereas abuse and neglect are suffered by children in our communities, regardless of age, race, gender, or economic situation. And whereas 1 in 10 children will be sexually abused before the age of 18. And whereas the reported maltreatment is only a portion of the overall problem threatening our children, for so many cases go unreported. And today's technology has brought with it a new and dangerous form of child endangerment, the online predator. Whereas the devastating consequences of physical and emotional abuse of our children affects the community as a whole, finding solutions needs to be attended to by the community as a whole. Where CARE House of Oakland County works to break the cycle of child abuse and neglect, provides a protective circle of light and hope for a better life, advocates for safety and protection of children, and partners with community organizations and agencies to offer programs and services aimed at preventing child abuse. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Huntington Woods do hereby proclaim April 2019 as Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month in the city of Huntington Woods, and call on all citizens, community agencies, organizations, and businesses to increase their participation in efforts to prevent the abuse of children, thereby strengthening and protecting the community in which we live. Proclaim this day. Unless there are any objections, the proclamations will stand. All right, moving on to the regular items of business. Item number 1, we get to officially be presented with the 2019-2020 budget.
So tonight is just simply taking receipt of the budget as required by the city charter, the first meeting in April. This will give you a few weeks to flip through it, ask any questions, then we'll set a study session to go over it in detail.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept?
Mr. Mayor, I move to acknowledge receipt of the 2019-2020 city budget.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I should mention that Commissioner Jenks obviously is not with us this evening. He is excused. Item number 2 is setting that date for the budget study work session. I believe we have come to an agreement that it'll be on April 23rd at 5:30 here at the commission.
Prior to the regular city commission meeting that night.
Do we have a motion to set that date?
I motion to set that date.
Second.
Any public comment? Any other comments at the commission? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I would encourage everyone to look through the budget and be prior to that, and if you have any questions, call Amy or Tim and see if they can answer your questions. Item number 3. Matter of considering the adoption of the 2019 energy plan prepared by EcoWorks.
City staff has been working with a nonprofit agency called EcoWorks to put together an energy plan, to put together a framework for city staff to put together policies and initiatives to make the city more energy efficient and look at things from a more sustainable lens. So the Environmental Advisory Committee has worked with EcoWorks on the plan that is attached. They've made a couple of changes to it, and they are recommending that the city formally adopt this plan as the framework. And then there are some other items that are associated with, once the plan is in place, some other action items that could be taken. And we do have Aaron Reddish here and Julie from the Environmental Advisory Committee. If there are any questions about the energy plan initiatives or plans going forward, but staff definitely also recommends adopting this. We think this would be good to put it in, take a look at things from a budgetary perspective and make sure that we do put some effort into energy saving initiatives.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt the plan?
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to adopt the municipal energy plan presented by EcoWorks.
Second.
Any public comment? Thanks for all your hard work on the plan. We appreciate it.
You want to tell us? Now's your moment in the sun here. No pun intended.
Comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I wanted to also thank the committee for their work on this. As I read through it, I think there's some things we can get moving on right away. It was particularly interesting about the recommendation for sort of a part-time energy manager. And I know that as the long-range budget committee is sort of looking at things and we're kind of in flux, it's difficult maybe to do everything in here, including that position, but it would be something that, as they complete their work and we're looking at our budget, would it make sense to bring on someone part-time, to sort of usher in this energy plan and some of these initiatives. And so I think we need to look at it in terms of the big picture, but I think that there were some things in here we could do right away that are low cost and make a lot of sense, and some other things we might want to kind of move down the road and factor into the big picture, but it doesn't mean that they're not important and that at some point we may want to be able to do that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4 is a matter of considering the adoption of the Municipal Energy Vision Statement prepared by the Environmental Advisory Committee.
This is one of the items that was suggested in the energy plan, so as you can see, we're putting it right into work. It helps to focus the city on our projects going forward and making sure that we do look at things from a sustainability standpoint.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any public comment? Any additions?
Mr. Mayor,
Commission?
could I just, could we change
Oh, they somehow pulled the old
Yeah.
letterhead.
the
Oh,
letterhead?
sorry about
Thank
that.
you.
Yep.
No problem. That's all.
Good thing Mayor Pro Tem Jenks isn't here. You'd have an earful on that one.
Yep.
No big deal.
All right.
Let's burn that letter.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Item number 5 is a matter of consideration of the amendment of the Environmental Advisory Committee bylaws to include the energy plan goals and vision.
Yes, a red line copy of the bylaws are attached. The bylaws were approved by the EAC, and they also need to be approved by the City Commission, ratified by the City Commission as well.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any public comment? Any other comments at the commission? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, matter of consideration and introduction of an ordinance to amend the City of Huntington Woods Code of Ordinances, Chapter 26, Parks and Recreation. This is in regards to Val Jones Park. Amy, do you want to take us through?
We do have an ordinance on place right now that says that anybody that does use the skate park is required to use knee and elbow pads, and we realize that that is a requirement that is not easily enforced. Mary, our recreation director, worked with the MMRMA, and they had come up with some alternative language that could be posted at the park, advising users that we recommend that so that we are protected in case there is an incident, and then are recommending that the ordinance be amended to take out that specific requirement that not really practical to enforce.
This is recommending the signage should read skate at your own risk, no supervision, falls may occur, use of safety gear is recommended.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I, looked at this and I have a couple of word changes to it. First of all, I'm not sure quite what's driving this by the Michigan Municipal Risk Pool, who, for, if you don't know, that's the city's insurance carrier. It's a pool, it's a group of cities that are part of this. It's a pool of money. It's a self-insurance pool. So I'm not quite sure what the concern is, because the city is virtually immune under governmental immunity for anything involving that skate park, unless it involves some structural issue in it. But having said that, the practicality, as the city manager notes, is we can't be wardrobe police standing at the entrance of the park, making sure everybody is wearing pads or a helmet or stuff like that. There is a lot of risk inherent in the sport of skateboarding. gravity is the risk in it, and there's a lot of ways you can get hurt. On the other hand, it's a very popular activity, particularly with younger people. I noticed the senior advisory committee didn't weigh in on this one on skateboarding, and being part of that crowd, I can appreciate why. But anyway, I would suggest that we add the following to subparagraph A, that after Val Jones Park, we add use of the skate park may result in serious injury. And then the line that says use of safety gear is, and I would move that we add the word strongly between is and recommended. And then following that, I would move that we add the line parental supervision of minors is strongly encouraged. The reason for that is that way I feel we're doing our best to communicate to people that this, while it may be fun and while people may enjoy it, it is a risky activity. It's a high speed, it takes a lot of coordination to do it. There's also in subpart B, the section about bicycles. It says no bicycles. I would add and or motorized scooters are permitted in Val Jones Park. I would just add that term.
Are permitted?
Are, where it says no bicycles and or motorized scooters are permitted. Not, in other words, not permitted, are not permitted in Val. You've got
Right.
no, it starts with
Right, no bike.
no, so you can either do it bicycles and or motorized scooters are not permitted, or no bicycles or motorized scooters are permitted. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not quite sure what's behind the risk pool's concern here, because, like I said, because of the overall protection of governmental immunity. But I don't see any harm in just emphasizing purpose of warnings is to cause people to think. So I think people who don't already know, which one would think would be pretty obvious from looking at what they do there, that not a bad idea to add those items. So subject to that, I would.
So this came up because the sign needs to be replaced at that park, and the sign actually has language saying it's an ordinance violation, so that we
Right.
went back. And so the language that you've given me is ordinance language. Would you like that language also put on the sign as well, as long as there's room for it?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah. I mean, as long as we're doing a new sign, should be able to do pretty much what we want, shouldn't we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
as long as it's big enough.
Right.
Yep, okay. All right, well, this is a first reading. We can make those changes and bring it back at the April 23rd meeting.
Mr. Mayor, the signage that's there now, it looks relatively new, that says, the park closes at dusk, no dogs in the park, et cetera. Is this sign going to be placed directly next to that at both
It's
entrances?
inside the park, right? I mean, when you're in the skate bowl, you can see it right there. It's inside the park.
Okay. So there'll be nothing like the signs that are at the entryways?
No, this is a much larger sign.
Okay.
Do we keep track at all of the usage? Pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
Or what percentage of users are Huntington Woods residents versus non? In a sense, I mean, I know when I think it was built in 2000, if I'm not mistaken, there was some sort of grant or something that, but do you, as the Parks and Rec person, do you have a sense as to whether or not it's run its course in terms of popularity, or it's as popular now as it was?
It's still pretty popular. It's still pretty popular. It's not as popular as when it first opened, but it still has a regular usage.
Mr. Mayor, I ran by there today about 6:15, and there were about a dozen kids in there on skateboards and scooters, non-motorized, but scooters, and so it looked like it was being used today pretty heavily.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve this first reading as amended?
Second.
Any public comment? Seeing none, any other comments or questions from the commission? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we'll bring it back for a final reading at the next commission meeting. Item number 7 is also first reading. Consideration and introduction of an ordinance to amend the City of Huntington Woods Codes of Ordinance, Chapter 34 regarding telecommunications and small cell wireless ordinance, to be specific.
I'm actually going to turn it over to Lisa. She's more of an expert.
Okay.
This is a proposed ordinance revision in response to some FCC rules and recent state legislation addressing the small cell wireless devices in the right-of-way. It's really addressing the rollout of the 5G technology. This would amend your Article 34, which is your telecommunications regulations, and it would add a new Article 4 just specifically for these wireless facilities. Under state law, they allow the municipalities to adopt a permit provision. It's similar to the Metro Act provisions, except that there's no permit provision written into the legislation. Municipalities are allowed to adopt a permit. The state law doesn't provide what that means and what kind of information you could request. So we've tried to establish some kind of arms around that. Set up a permit process where it would go through the city clerk, approved by the city manager, similar to your Metro Act permits. We've got a provision in here requiring specific information that the provider would give to the city if they wanted to come into your right-of-way. There are some minimal fees that are still allowed to be charged by municipalities. Primarily what this would do would be to establish some aesthetic rules. That's really the main gist of this, other than just the permit process. The feds and the state have pretty much taken your rights away with the right-of-way as far as these small cell wireless devices are concerned. They have a lot of authority to come into your communities, into all areas of your community. So under the FCC rules, there's some language in there that says if you want to establish aesthetic standards, you have to have those published by April 14th. And there's some interpretations on that if you don't publish those aesthetic standards by April 14th, perhaps you won't be able to enforce them. So that's why we're kind of approaching this with a two-prong approach here. We have an ordinance provision in front of you to get something in place, to give some arms around this. It's really pretty comprehensive legislation with the FCC rules. It's a couple hundred pages long, a lot of technicalities, state law which conflicts with the FCC rules, so we've done the best we can to kind of make some sense out of these very complicated set of rules that they put in place. The aesthetic rules we've got separated into a resolution, so you would, if you're interested in adopting this ordinance, you would do the first reading today, and then we've got a resolution where you adopt the aesthetic standards and get those published by April 14th deadline, so you've got those in place, and then you would come back again for the second reading of the ordinance.
And even if we waived the first reading and just adopted this, it wouldn't be in time because it takes 20 days for an ordinance to take effect, so we would miss the April 14th date. That's the reason for the resolution and the two-part approach.
Exactly. So what we've tried to do with the aesthetic standards is put down pretty much everything we could think of, with the thought that you can always scale back in the future. It's going to be more difficult, we think, to go the other direction and become more comprehensive in the future, because that might open a door where providers might say, somebody who came in 2 weeks ago didn't have to comply with this, we do, and so there's some unfairness or discrimination in how these are being applied. So we tried to put forth as many standards as we could think of to get those published by this April 14th date. To be perfectly honest with you, this is a work in progress. because these rules are so complicated and comprehensive. You know, we're gonna be learning as we go, providers are gonna be learning as they go, and there's some waiver provisions written throughout the ordinance that gives you some flexibility to waive certain standards if you get some pushback.
Mr. Mayor, well, I think it's a good idea to get something in place pronto. I mean, the industry, you know, will take, as, you know, the old proverbial, give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Well, that's exactly what's here, and I know it's important technology, but it's also important to balance that against the aesthetic components of the neighborhood and the value of the homes, and nobody should have to think they're looking at something that's ghastly, ugly, that it can be seen by everybody. So I mean, I think it's a very good first step, and I support it.
Mr. Mayor, no question that between the state legislature and the feds essentially taking away all of our rights to maintain our right-of-way, there's not really much we can do. This does make me recall when AT&T came to town, when UVerse was being rolled out, and I remember our planner at the time, Bonnie Cook, went through great lengths to ensure that those ugly cabinets were discreetly placed, despite our ability to not regulate their placement, you know, working with AT&T on where they were located, so that they were not an eyesore to the community. And so I would certainly hope that, because look, in order for these cell phones to be able to communicate at the speed that they want, there are going to be a lot of these things all over the place, because you need to be in close proximity to achieve that desired speed. So we really, I just think when this permitting process begins, we really need to be aware of their placement and aesthetically how it will affect our community. We did that with AT&T as best we could back years ago, and I would certainly hope we do the same thing here with these wireless providers.
Okay. Do we have a motion to accept the first reading?
I motion, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I motion to accept the first reading.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, can I make one comment? I did notice as I was reading through this, anywhere it says Article 1 will be changed to Article 2. So just for your knowledge, that should read Article 2.
Accept that as a friendly amendment to your motion?
Yes.
Yeah, the second, okay. Any public comment? Any other comments? Questions from the commission? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now, item number 8 is the resolution that we were referring to a moment ago, establishing standards for wireless facilities and other infrastructure installations in the public right-of-way. Anything more to add?
I don't really have anything more to add. This is the resolution I just spoke about to get it published by that April 14th date.
No, I just have one question of the attorney, and that is, are you advising that we publish this in its entirety in the newspaper?
No, I think we can just publish a notice of adoption.
Right.
And we can get you the language for that if you need to.
I already have it.
Okay,
Yep. And we'll also place it on the website.
exactly. Yeah.
Great. It'd be pretty pricey to publish in its entirety, so it's nice we can get away with that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Any public comment? Any comments at the commission? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9 is a resolution authorizing a request from Oakland County in the amount of $820.08 for reimbursement for money spent to combat the West Nile virus.
So, Mr. Mayor, this is very important. We go through this every year, especially this time of the year. A couple of years ago, we dramatically strengthened the ordinance regarding standing water, but I still think the West Nile virus is a very serious public health issue, and anything that we have available to us that will help deter it from being worse than it is, I fully support.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion. Motion to approve it.
Thank you. Any public comment? Any other comments or questions at the commission? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have 7 sets of reports and minutes. Do I have a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Warrant number 349, do I have a motion to accept, subject to full audit?
So moved, Mr. Mayor. I did receive a refund on a bond from the city. I don't know if it shows up on,
It does. You're listed in here.
is it, as it is?
Yep.
Okay, so,
Let's get a second first, and then,
yeah,
I'll second it.
thank you. Okay,
Mr. Mayor, I just, with respect to that check that was issued to me, I don't want anybody to think that I'm receiving funds from there's a refund from our first builder, so to the extent that it's something that involves me personally, I'll recuse myself on this vote, and I should indicate this is, I think, the only time in almost 10 years I've ever recused myself from anything.
okay. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're on to our city manager's report.
I have just a couple of items because spring is coming, we think. The tennis nets are up and the skate park is open, as Joe had mentioned tonight. The DPW is starting their annual hydrant flushing. So we are recommending residents don't do their laundry during the day if you see DPW trucks in the area, because it's going to stir up some sediment in the lines and might affect your washing. So they are going to be doing some sweeping, mulching. You'll see some general cleanup around the area. And then as residents are doing cleanup, we want to remind people that blowing grass and leaves into the street is not permitted, even though the DPW is going to be out cleaning it up. We don't want to make it any harder for them to do that. So think spring.
Are there any questions for the city manager? All right, commissioners' remarks. Commissioner Rozelle?
No remarks, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Olsman?
No remarks.
Commissioner Elder?
I wanted to thank the people who showed up to my first meetup with Michelle this past weekend. It was at the rec center at 2 o'clock on Saturday, and I really enjoyed hearing from the residents about their thoughts on many local issues. There will be another one in April 27th at the same time at 2 o'clock, and I hope to see more people there. It's been fun getting to know the residents more and hearing about what they care about. My other announcement, I've got to pull it up here, is that the Huntington Woods Teen Council has a fundraiser for April 9th from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. I posted on my Facebook, and I think they posted it on their Facebook, but if you go to Crispelli's, 10% of the total bill will be donated back to the Huntington Woods Teen Council. So April 9th, Tuesday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Help support our Teen Council. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank the community for their overwhelming support of the men's club auction. It was a great night. Helped the club to raise over $130,000. And let's just hope our Spartans can bring a national championship home to Michigan for the Big Ten. Go green.
Go white.
With that, the meeting is adjourned.